All right, and we are here. We're here and we're starting. Hello, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Every Which Way podcast. It is wonderful to have you here. How have you guys been doing? Did you have a good week? Did you have a good weekend? Did you get some rest? I hope you did. Goodness, I know that last weekend I had a blast. I had a blast with my coven, and we went places. We ate so much incredible food. It was a great time, truly, and I really needed it. I needed it so bad. We went to the Black Coffee Caverns here in Pennsylvania, which, if you've never heard of them, I don't blame you. I'd never heard of them until like a couple months ago. And we took a tour, and it was really cool. If you're ever in the area, I highly recommend them. Abso-freaking-lutely. But yeah, it was just nice to get away from responsibilities for a little while. Unfortunately, while I was away, the stove in my place went out, and my partner was having a really, he was not having a good day at all, really. And but these things happen, so no one got hurt. No one got hurt or anything like that. So while it sucks, we can't really cook or bake anything at the moment. It could have been a lot worse, so I'm very grateful for that. But yeah. So welcome back, everyone. I know I already said that, but welcome. My goodness, 2024 is almost over. It is halfway through freaking November, and December's gonna be here. And my goodness, where did the year go? Feels like it was only yesterday that was June, and now it's November. But, wow, just, my goodness. And the weather's been nice and cool, and I've been able to drink tea. I mean, I always drink tea, but drink hot tea without feeling my whole body just sweat about it, so that's been great. I currently am drinking Polyjuice Potion tea. When my coven and I were coming back from our trip last weekend, we stopped at a store. I think it's called the Gypsy Rose or the Hippie Rose, something like that. But they carry 70s, 60s, 80s memorabilia, and they had some teas there. And they had some Harry Potter teas. And one of the teas was a Polyjuice Potion tea that had apple, orange peel, butterfly, pea flower. And that's what I'm currently drinking in my Sanderson museum mug, and it is delicious. Highly recommend it. Just so good. So good. So, what am I talking about today? Well, it's been a minute since I've discussed a deity. And this one I decided to talk about due to my wonderful dear friend, Carrie. So, Carrie, if you're listening to this, and bitch, you better fucking be, because the amount of research I had to do, and the notes that I took, truly phenomenal. I put in so much effort, and I mean, usually I usually do put in effort, but I did this one specifically for you, Carrie. So you better appreciate it, darn it. You better appreciate my work. You better appreciate my effort. So, yeah. But, Carrie, this is for you. And I'm talking about the Morrigan. Yeah, so let's get started. So the Morrigan is an Irish deity, though there is some evidence that she or her archetype have been worshipped in Spain, France, Portugal, and England. Her name has been translated to mean Great Queen, Sea Queen, Queen of Demons, Terrifying Queen, and Phantom Queen. She is a member or a part of the clan or tribe, the Tuatha De Danann, whose name translates to people of the goddess Danu. So let's talk about the Tuatha De Danann, okay? Let's talk about them. And the reason why I want to talk about them here is not just because the Morrigan is part of this clan, but also to set the groundwork for when I do future episodes on deities that belong to this tribe, that are members of this tribe. So I want to do the groundwork here so that it's established and we're building upon it, okay? So, the Tuatha De Danann. And I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I did try to look up some of the pronunciations, but bear with me with my horrible English, my horrible American way of speaking. To those of you who are in Ireland, I'm really sorry if I'm butchering your language. I'm not trying to, but just be patient with me, please. So, the Tuatha De Danann. At times, they are referred to as gods, but more often than not, they're considered more of a tribe, a race, or a clan of highly skilled individuals. And I mean it. They were exceptional at what they did. So think human, but plus. So like superhuman, but not quite deity. Because they can be killed and they can die. And here shortly we will see when, we will see that that is very much a thing. Had to take a sip of tea. There are many members of the Tuatha De Danann, among which, though, include Lugh, for whom Lughnasadh got its name, of course, Ogma, Brigid, Macha, and the Morrigan. An earlier name for them was the Tuatha, or the Tribe of the Gods. According to the manuscript, The Annals of the Four Masters, the Tuatha De Danann ruled Ireland from around 1897 BCE to 1700 BCE. To put that time frame into perspective for us, that's about 1,000 years after the Great Pyramid at Giza had been constructed and 1,000 years prior to Alexander the Great ruling. So yeah, that big. According to legend, they arrived on the Connacht coast in a great fog or mist. Many believe that they burned their boats that they arrived on to ensure that they settled on the land. The Tuatha De Danann were the fifth race to invade Ireland, appearing prior to the Milesians, who came from Spain, but after the Greek Firbolg. Their physical appearance, when they're actually mentioned and described, is described as tall, with pale complexions, red or blonde hair, and green or blue eyes. But that's not the rule, that's just we'll get there. As soon as they arrived to Ireland, the Tuatha De Danann immediately started fighting everybody, which is so badass, and it makes me laugh. First, they went after the Firbolg, who were already established in Ireland. The two factions engaged in a fight called the First Battle of Mai Tudor, where the king of the Tuatha De Danann, Nuada, lost his arm, or hand, during the battle, though the Firbolg lost the battle. So, Nuada lost his arm or hand, but the enemy lost the battle. It is said that 100,000 of the Firbolg were slaughtered during the battle, and the remainder were allowed to remain in Ireland afterwards, but not as the ruling faction. That would be the Tuatha De Danann. So, following the battle of my tutor, Nuada, having lost that arm or hand, was deemed unfit to rule because everyone knows that you have to have two arms in order to be a ruler. Makes perfect sense. So, a king from a different faction, Breas of the Fomori, was placed on the throne. So, the Fomori were a tribe of monstrous giants who typically dwelled beneath the earth. Breas ruled for 7 years, which went so poorly, actually, that he was ousted from his position, and Nuada, now with a silver replacement arm, returned as king in Breas' stead. Now, that sparked conflict between the Fomori and the Tuatha De Danann. And the Fomori, and they had another battle of Mag Turin. Tudor. I'm sorry. Irish can sometimes be hard. But just like with the Firbolg, the Fomori were utterly defeated and devastated by the Tuatha De Danann, though Nuada did lose his life during the fight. He was succeeded by Lu, who had been raised in Tir na Nog, or the Land of Promise, and who had defeated Balor of the Evil Eye, the Fomori's champion, during this second battle. Eventually, the Tuatha De Danann were defeated by the Milesians, who are believed to represent the very human Celts in the legends and tales. They were allowed to remain in Ireland, much like the Firbolg, but they could only reside underground or in the otherworld. While residing there, the Tuatha De Danann and their descendants became known as the Aeshi, or the people of the mounds, or fairy mounds, similar to elves. After defeating the Tuatha De Danann, the Milesians used the name of one of them, Eir, for their new kingdom, and Eir, or Eir, is still used today to refer to Ireland. Their mythology says that they had 4 treasures that showcase just how talented and skilled the Tuatha De Danann are. And those 4 treasures are as follows. The Stone of Fall, that would scream whenever a true ruler of Ireland stood upon it. The Magic Sword of Nuada, that only ever inflicted fatal wounds when it was used. The Slingshot or Spear of Lu, which never missed its target, and no battle was ever won against it or whoever wielded it. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Cauldron of Dagda, which never ran out of sustenance and never let anyone leave from it unsatisfied. And if memory serves correctly, I did mention that in the Cauldron episode a while back. So, the Tuatha De Danann were highly skilled in magic, numerous sciences, and the arts, and that is what set them apart from other tribes that Ireland had seen previously. They are prophesied to return from the underworld or the otherworld for one final battle, and they will return in Ireland's greatest time of need. It is said that they are going to win and restore Ireland to its former glory. And that's what I have on the Tuatha De Danann. So, now that we have that groundwork, let's continue on with the Morrigan. So, as far as her family lineage is concerned, her mother is Irmos. Her sisters are Eir, Babd, and Floda, though I did see Macha included in that as well. And her husband or consort, lover, is Dagda. During the first battle of my Churid, my tutor. I have the pronunciations, but I only have them in here once. During the first battle of my tutor, the Morrigan and her sisters cast magical spells to summon mist and rain fire upon the battlefield. While the Tuatha De Danann readied themselves for the second battle of my tutor against the Fomori, the Morrigan prophesied their victory, as well as the bloodshed it would cost them. And she did this after she and Dagda made love by a river, and this supposedly happened on Samhain. So there you go. The Morrigan got herself some. You go, girl. I love tea. Prior to the aforementioned second battle, after being asked what skills she would contribute, the Morrigan responded with, "What I shall follow, I shall hunt." Ooh. And that just sends a nice shiver down my spine. It took no time at all for the battle to morph into a complete bloodbath, and it ended only when the Morrigan's battle cries enticed bloodlust in her clansmen, and the Fomori ran away from her, choosing instead to perish in the sea rather than meeting her head on. So she scared the Fomori so badly that they decided that drowning in the sea was far more preferable. And really, I can't say I blame them, because the Morrigan is an intense presence indeed. Perhaps her most popular and prominent appearance in mythology is in the Ulster Cycle Tales, usually as an antagonist, though not the villain, of the hero Cú Chulainn. So let's talk about the Ulster Cycle Tales. The first one is the cattle raid of Ragmain. So Cú Chulainn goes after an old woman who was stealing a heifer from his farm. He realized his mistake in doing this when the old woman transformed herself into a raven. And to cover his butt, Cú Chulainn said that he would have acted more wisely had he known it was the Morrigan. Well, she didn't accept that. So to punish him for his offense, the Morrigan foretells her presence at Cú Chulainn's death, saying, "It is at the guarding of thy death that I am, and I shall be." Yeah. Later in the Ulster cycle, the Morrigan returns as her raven self to warn the brown bull of Cooley, who was an extremely virile stud bull in the region, to vacate Ulster before he was captured by Queen Mebd of Connacht, the main villain of the Ulster Cycle Tales. During Queen Mebd's invasion of Ulster, all of the men, except for Cú Chulainn, fell sick or were cursed, and they couldn't fight. So that only left the hero of this tale cycle to defend the province by himself. During a lull in the fighting, a young woman offered herself to him as a lover and was promptly rejected by him. When the fighting resumed shortly thereafter, Cú Chulainn was attacked by 3 animals, and they were an eel, then a wolf, and finally a heifer, all of which he managed to fend off, injuring them in the process. Once the battle was over, he came upon an injured woman milking her cow, whose wounds matched those that the 3 animals that attacked him previously received. She offered Cú Chulainn 3 drinks from her cow, which he accepted, blessing the woman after each drink. With each blessing, one of the woman's wounds would heal until she was finally at full health. And when she was at full health, the woman revealed herself to be the Morrigan, and reminded Cuchulainn of his past offenses and his impending death before she left. And finally, in another battle with Queen Meb's forces, Cuchulainn was fatally wounded. But instead of just dying on the ground like a little bitch, he vowed to die standing and tied himself to a stone with his own entrails in order to make his enemies think that he was still alive. Well, this worked. And after 3 days or so, Queen Meb's forces relented. It was only when the Morrigan, in her raven form, landed on Cuchulainn's shoulders did his foes realize his deception. And that's all I have on the Ulster Cycle Tales. But isn't that such a wild ride? It's like, my goodness, you are so, like, just a boss, Morrigan. Like, wow. In other mythology, the Morrigan and even her sisters are connected to Arthurian legends Morgan Le Fay. Aside from being shapeshifters and prophetesses, both the Morrigan and Morgan Le Fay are connected to battles, conflict, and war. Some tales paint the Morrigan as neither good nor bad, while others label her as a villainous or a corrupt soul. In some of these tales, depending on where, like the translation, Morrigan is instead called the Morrigan. So they are connected not just in aspects of what they do, but also in a way in name. The Morrigan has also been linked to Irish sovereignty goddesses, who are viewed as conduits to the land itself, the fertility of the land, and the rule of it. The Banshee and her cries have also been tied to the Morrigan and her battle cries, which I think that we can make that connection. And while there's not really that much substantial archaeological evidence for that, I do like it. And there are some correlations between the Morrigan and the Old Norse Valkyries. Both tend to appear alone or in threes. They're both associated with birds. They have the ability of prophecy, and they can give or take away life. There is a cave called the Oenagat Cave, or the Cave of the Cats, that's located in Rathcave, County Roscommon in Ireland, and it is said to be the Morrigan's home, as well as a gate to the otherworld or underworld. There is a myth that the Morrigan led a young woman named Odros into the otherworld through this cave and turned her into a pool of water. And you can actually go and visit this cave in Ireland. So that's something, if I ever get to Ireland, that is something that I would like to go and see, because I think that'd be so cool. Ancient artwork featuring her likeness has been found and has been dated back to roughly 3000 BCE in the Copper Age. Statues and stone slabs with her eyes, breasts, beak when she's in a raven form, and vulva have been found in England, France, Spain, and Portugal. The Morrigan's origins are believed to stem back to the megalithic or prehistoric cult of the mothers. These mother goddesses typically appeared as triple goddesses and were praised through regenerative and battle ecstasy. Magic in battle was eventually attributed to these mother goddesses, and in this we can see the beginning of the Morrigan's mythos. Her physical appearance is fluid and ever-changing, as she is a shapeshifter. She is often depicted as or with a raven or crow, has appeared as a young and old woman, and has disguised herself as a heifer, wolf, eel, and several blackbirds. That being said, the Morrigan is described in the Ulster cycles as thus: a red-haired woman with red eyebrows in a chariot with a red cloak around her shoulders. The cloak hung down at the back of the chariot and dragged on the ground behind her. And there, I have to pause. My headphones are starting to die. So hold on 1 minute. And we're back. Sorry about that. I had to go get my earbuds. But, let's see. Whoops. So, I've even seen some sources claim that she looks partly dead or skeletal. So, there's that. According to the Irish pagan school, the Morrigan is not a triple goddess, as she lacks the maiden mother crone function. The triple goddess belief isn't a part of the Irish pagan tradition, but instead comes from modern Wicca. When used as a title, however, the Morrigan can refer to Badb, Macha, Anad, and Naaman. These are believed to be sisters to Morrigan, or even counterparts, but some believe them to be facets of the Morrigan goddess herself. It is important to note that there are some practitioners who do view the Morrigan as a triple goddess, which is totally fine. Each practice is different. But for me personally, I like to see her as her own separate entity instead of a third of a whole faction, if that makes sense. But if you see her as triple goddess, that's a-okay. I'm just letting you guys know that the Irish pagan school does not. So, there you go. It is not just ravens or crows that the Morrigan, I keep bumping the desk, that the Morrigan has a fondness for. She also has companions or familiars that are called the Hounds of the Morrigan. The Hounds of the Morrigan are spectral, supernatural, or otherworldly hounds described in myth as the terrifying, fierce familiars or companions of the Morrigan. They are physically large and black, having red glowing eyes, and possessing incredible speed and agility. They're also fantastic hunters. They're viewed as symbols of protection and destruction, are associated with battles, heroism, the borderline between life and death, as well as the wild, primal aspect of nature. They act as omens of impending doom and death on the battlefield, often chasing down and consuming the souls of fallen warriors. Sometimes they're depicted as a trio of hounds or a pack. Other names for them include Cú Chulain's hounds or Cú Chulain's frenzy, due to them appearing in the hero's tale cycle. I just thought that was interesting, so I wanted to include that. Of course, ravens and crows are the most prominent symbols of the Morrigan, and they are also the most common forms that she changes into. They represent wisdom with a side of trickery, conflict, war, death, and are the protectors of sacred records. In battle, a crow or raven, flying above is said to be the Morrigan herself, watching over the soldiers or joining the fray. 3 is a number most often associated with her due to her coming from a trio of sisters. Also, in the Ulster cycle of tales, she did change into 3 different animals to attack Cú Chulainn after he had spurned her. So 3 is, as far as numerology is concerned, is one of her associations or correspondences, and that could also be where the triple goddess association came from as well. But I wanted to throw that in there. Other symbols for the Morrigan include the cauldron, which represents the Morrigan's shape-shifting transformative powers, as well as being able to create change and rebirth. Any kind of knotwork, as it can symbolize the connection and how entwined life, death, and rebirth are, as well as the Morrigan's complex nature. And a shield and spear, which represent her protective and aggressive qualities, along with her war goddess status. Colors that are tied to the Morrigan include black, of course, for it's used for workings that deal with mysteries, protection, power, and the liminal space between life and death. Following black, we have red, which is a prime choice for rituals and spell work that focus on vitality, passion, strength, and life force. After that, we have dark blue, which is a color used for the Morrigan regarding wisdom, prophecy, intuition, the subconscious, and the unseen. We have silver as well for its transformation, reflection, and feminine energy ties. And the last one we have is green, which is for growth, the land, regeneration, and abundance, and ties the Morrigan back into a goddess of the land and over sovereignty. Crystals. Here are some crystals that are connected in some way, shape, or form to the Morrigan. We have black obsidian, which is used to help shield against negative energies, provide stability and inner strength, and to help release old patterns. Following that, we have bloodstone for cultivating resilience, inspiring courage, and helping one's life force. We have smoky quartz up next, and which is a good choice, by the way, to assist in emotional balancing, the releasing of fear, integrating one's shadow and clarity. And we have red jasper for rituals and spiritual workings dealing with physical endurance, resilience, and vitality. And the last crystal that I have is black tourmaline to maintain one's energetic integrity and to enhance personal boundaries. There are herbs associated with the Morrigan too. The first one being mugwort, which is often used for divination, astral work, dream work, and protection. Wormwood for protection, warding off negative energies, divination, and enhancing psychic powers. And wormwood is considered the herb of choice by practitioners when working with the Morrigan. So, if you want to work with the Morrigan, maybe throw some wormwood at her. Just throw it at her. Be like, there you go. Meadowsweet is another herb, and it is used for personal power, authority, empowerment, and confidence. Rosemary is an herb used to invoke the Morrigan's protective energy and to ask her for wisdom and guidance. Hawthorn is a tree that is popular in rituals that connect to the Morrigan's battle prowess and her sovereignty over herself and the land. We also have yarrow, which is particularly useful in healing, workings, guidance, and protection. And finally, we have vervain, which can be used as an offering to the Morrigan, as well as for insight, empowerment, and protection. There are no Sabbats that are officially dedicated to the Morrigan, but ones that align with her archetype include Samhain, Imbolc, Beltane, and Lughnasadh, which makes sense. And the reason why I say it makes sense is because Lugh and the Morrigan are both part of the Tuatha De Danann, so it would make sense that she would have ties to it. For those of you that didn't see where I was coming from, I'm probably over-explaining things. I'm sorry. She has no specific weekday that is attributed to her, but devotees of the Morrigan recommend Tuesdays and Fridays. So there you go. There are no specific tarot cards dedicated solely to the Morrigan, but there are a few that resonate with her themes, attributes, archetypes, and energy. The first one being the High Priestess, who correlates to the Morrigan's prophetic abilities, divination skills, and seeress powers. Following the High Priestess, we have the Tower, which links to the Morrigan's chaotic energy, as well as transformation and the breaking of obstacles. The Empress follows the Tower, and she connects to the Morrigan's aspect of sovereignty, especially over the land and nature. The Chariot aligns with the battle or warrior side of the Morrigan, as well as her influence in battle, how she persuades or influences it, and victory itself. The Five of Swords is the only minor arcana that reflects the dynamic power and strife that this warrior goddess possesses. And the last one we have is the Death card, which relates to the cycle of life, death, and rebirth or regeneration, just like the Morrigan. With all of that under our belts, what exactly is the Morrigan a goddess of? Well, the big one is war and battle. She inspires warriors, influences the tide and outcome of battles and conflicts, and even participates in the fighting. She is often invoked to shield one from negativity, help to defend their boundaries, and provide support, strength, and courage for personal and spiritual battles. The Morrigan is a goddess of transformation and rebirth as well, making her a catalyst for profound change, an overseer of life, death, and rebirth, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and a guide to devotees as they grow and embrace their own personal power. For those seeking to do shadow or transformative work, the Morrigan is an excellent advisor and guide, helping to uncover and embrace hidden truths, helping to release old attachments or patterns, and for stimulating personal growth. As a goddess of sovereignty, the Morrigan is tied to leadership, power, and the bond a ruler shares with the land that they preside over. She challenges kings, rulers, and heroes to ensure that they're fit for their roles. In this regard, the Morrigan is most definitely an enforcer of the cosmic order. As a shapeshifter and prophetess, the Morrigan uses her skills to deliver messages, warnings, or advice to those who seek her guidance. Individuals and devotees of the Morrigan work with her on rituals and spells pertaining to nature, magic, witchcraft, the cycle of the seasons, as well as the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, the unseen realms, and the land itself. Sometimes she's also invoked for workings that center around sexuality and sensuality. In Wicca and witchcraft traditions and practices, the Morrigan is a patron goddess of magic and spellcraft. As a powerful divine feminine goddess, she is an excellent choice for those seeking to embrace their femininity, connect to their inner power, facilitate independence, and to honor the divine feminine. The Morrigan is often honored at seasonal celebrations such as Samhain and Beltane, and is even sought to oversee workings that help to tap into their wild and primal nature. So, let's say that you want to set up an altar for the Morrigan, okay? What are some things that you could put on this altar to Morrigan? Well, you could put statues or images, particularly those that reflect her warrior aspect or feature her as a raven or crow. Speaking of raven or crows, you could put feathers on the altar, specifically ones that symbolize her raven and crow companions, so feathers from those birds. Black or dark colored candles to help reflect the Morrigan's dark, shadowy self. A cauldron that can be filled with her herbs or items affiliated with her, or as a representation of her transformative powers. Crystals such as black tourmaline, bloodstone, or black obsidian. Symbols of war, such as miniature shields, spears, and swords. And when I saw the suggestion of miniature shields and swords, I thought that was so cute, because I'm just picturing like little army guys, like from Toy Story, just on her little altar, and it was a cute image, I assure you. Divination tools like runes, tarot cards, scrying mirrors. Texts or prayers that feature the Morrigan, and of course, offerings. What kind of offerings, you say? Well, the most popular ones that I saw include red wine, red beans, red meat, any kind of red food, actually, milk, traditional Irish food, mead, storm water, a knife, just one knife, crow or raven feathers, wormwood, of course, or any other herbs associated with her, and incense, with dragon's blood and frankincense being the most popular. So, the Morrigan is a very intimidating figure, but not in a bad way. She is a powerful being, and she knows it. She knows that which she is capable of. She knows what her skills are, and she doesn't falter, she doesn't waver. She is who she is, and she embraces it fully. And she's not afraid to go into battle and to do some slaughtering if she deems it necessary. And I feel like if the Morrigan is reaching out to you, then she recognizes you as one of hers. I like to refer to them as children, as one of her children. And there's something that you need to learn from her, or that you need to let her in. You are right if you are a little hesitant or apprehensive of the Morrigan, because she is no joke. She is powerful. She should not be taken lightly. No god should. No deity should. But do not let your hesitation or your doubt restrain you, because the Morrigan is very much helpful. She is a great deity to align with, and she is not all light, love, and laughter. In fact, one could say with almost 100% certainty that she is more of the darker aspects of life and of what femininity can bring. And sometimes that's what we need to balance us out. So, Carrie, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you learned something about the Morrigan, and I hope that the next time she reaches out to you, you extend your hand, because she definitely wants to work with you. Before I leave, I'm going to pull a card. I'm going to pull a card from my Wild Unknown Tarot. I'm going to do a little shuffle here. But yeah, I hope that you guys really did enjoy this episode on the Morrigan. I had a good deal of fun reading on her mythology and about her, and it was very much enjoyable. So, but let's... All right. Ooh. We have the Mother of Swords. All right, the Mother of Swords. Let's see here. Sharp, perceptive. You'll often find the Mother of Swords putting her sharp perceptions to use as a therapist, doctor, or teacher. She's extremely experienced and knowledgeable in her field. Some think of her as all-seeing. This card can sometimes represent a woman going through a difficult time. She may be recently widowed or divorced, and usually without children. During this time, there's potential for her criticism to soar. So I think that this card is a reminder that you are capable. You have the ability to do what you need to do. Don't let your own inner critic blind you, though. Which is easier said than done, I know. But this is a warning, okay? And I hope that helped. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode of the Every Which Way podcast. If you would be so kind, I would appreciate it if you would check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Every Which Way podcast. I have 4 tiers. Baby Witch, which is $1. Mother, Maiden, which is $3. Mother, which is $6. And Crone, which is $9. And you get to watch these recordings for these episodes, and you get to listen to them a couple of days early, which is always great. And I'm still trying to figure out what other bonus stuff I can do for you guys. Sometimes I'll do readings and stuff like that, but you just be really helping a witch out. And speaking of which, even if you don't do that, just sharing this with your friends would be a great help. Please leave a review and spread the word of this podcast. It is available on iHeartRadio, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, of course, and the YouTubes. So, yeah. I want to thank you all for tuning into this episode. I hope you all have a magical Monday, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, my guys.